They submitted a CD. So.
That's no secret now.
Sent you an email. Before you sat down, I think it was like, oh, there's Lisa, so.
Okay, I will call this meeting to order at 8 p.m. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming. First item is introductions and roll call. Sarah, could you do a roll call around the room?
Yes. Chair Vaughn.
Here.
Brenna. Here. Sorry. You're fine. Okay, Eva Henson. Here. Marsha Porter Norton. Here. Okay, great. Katie Sickles. Thank you.
Mark Garcia, Town of Ignacio.
Right.
Okay.
Our directors.
And Clark Craig is absent. And considers absence excused. And Chuck Stevens may or may not show up. If he doesn't, is excused.
I think he must be running late because I haven't heard from him
Okay.
that he's not going to be here.
Okay. Before we get into public comment, just want to acknowledge that we just completed a tour of the Gage Apartments. And I think, speaking for myself, I'm impressed with the product, given that it's built in Idaho and it's on the ground here in Durango and in pretty good shape. And I appreciate those who could attend. Appreciate Sarah putting it together with Mike Fouts and FCI, and I'd like to ask Sarah to put together a letter of thanks to Mike and FCI for conducting it. And with that, it's time for public comment. We have members in the audience here for public comment. Yes.
I want to follow up on what
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Lori Roberts.
Thank you.
I want to follow up on what I was saying to you all last month. You know, I've got involved with housing here, but my first interest and my profession is children's mental health. And I have written in the Herald about the importance of children seeing adults coming together to solve problems. And that's the role that you guys have in children's mental health in your current capacity in this room right now. Is adults coming together to solve problems so that kids say, hey, I don't have to be despairing, I don't have to be depressed, people can get stuff done. That's why I'm here. Housing is such an important need in our area. But I have a question about the role of this governmental entity in housing creation. I brought that up last month. I know that Governor Polis is pushing us to go in a direction of being more innovative in creation of affordable housing. When I last wrote about this in the paper, I was saying we need to move beyond yesterday's developer subsidies. The question that I have for you guys, going over to see Mike
Fouts.
Mike Fouts has been a friend for decades. My kids are in the Bayfield wrestling community. My daughter was a all-state volleyball player for his wife. I know Mike really well, he's a good guy. But my question for you guys going over to see that development is, I would hope that this entity would have right at its fingertips what number of housing units for people who will wash dishes for all the residents of the Gage development are needed. And are we creating housing units for the dishwashers and the garbage collectors that are needed to serve that new community? The other question that I would hope this group would have at its fingertips is, are those units affordable for teachers and firefighters? And are we creating those affordable housing units at the rate that we need to be?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Brian Blanchard, I live in Bayfield. I also work in Durango for Coldwell Banker Real Estate. Mostly what I do is commercial properties, but I contacted Sarah a few weeks ago, I guess it was, and indicated that I had some properties that might be appropriate for affordable or workforce housing in the Durango area. So that's kind of why I'm here today. I gave a packet to Sarah, and I guess what I'm here to say is that there's not a lot of shovel-ready properties in the Durango area that can be developed that have all the utilities in place. I've worked with the county a little bit in the past on the unhoused population, and also with the city a little bit about some housing. So I'm familiar with the concept and the challenge, but I guess what I'm bringing is to Sarah. I said, what if I could keep in contact with you occasionally with opportunities of properties that do come up that may be appropriate for your group to consider. So that's kind of why I'm here today, not just pitch the properties I just have, but all the realtors in general in the Durango area. I think you may be missing one piece of your group, and that is a realtor who is always on the lookout for properties that might be appropriate for what you're trying to achieve here. So something to consider, because in all of the Durango area, there are only 11 properties currently available that are basically 1 to 5 acres that have all the utilities that you need. And as Pam brought up, you're going to give developer incentives to get these projects done. A big part of that is the infrastructure. That's a key for these developers to know that it already has all the utilities that they need, basically to be shovel ready. So that's a big part of it. But out of 11 properties, there's only 4 that are not in some organized subdivision. So you don't have a lot of choices currently on properties that could be developed into that. And I've read through your 3-year workforce housing investment strategy, which is really good, I think. But again, I think you're missing a piece, and that is your job is to create how are we going to pull this off. But you need the piece of the puzzle, which is the property itself that makes sense for what you're trying to achieve. That's all I'm going to say. Appreciate it. I will keep in touch with Sarah if that's okay, because that's the contact that I currently have, and also a little bit with the county. So thank you all for your time, and good luck with what you're doing. I'm a true believer. Let's get it done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes,
I wanted to
for the
acknowledge.
record, your name.
Oh, sure. My name is Lisa Blomquist. I'm the Executive Director for
Thanks.
Homespun. I wanted to acknowledge and hopefully not notify all of you guys that Rachel Taylor Saggy, with the Executive Director for Habitat for Humanity, passed away last month. Her obituary is her obituary was released. So her family was being very quiet about it for a long time, but there was a big loss to our affordable housing community. She was very passionate about affordable homeownership, and she was very passionate about the work that she did with Habitat for Humanity of La Plata County. So just wanted to acknowledge that, let any of you know who didn't happen to know that, and I'm sure that, well, there's a big hole. So.
Could I add on that? I worked with Rachel when she started at Habitat when she was coming in as a development director. We were like, I don't know if we're still on meeting, and then we went to Bodo, but a long time ago. And I always felt that she was very welcoming, and she had a lot of innovative ideas. So I was really saddened when I read that also.
Do you know if they've appointed a replacement director?
I don't know anything.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, okay. That's all right.
Yeah, it's a really tough job.
Yes.
To be a Habitat affiliate director. So I'm sure if any of you know of anyone who you might want to recommend, I'm assuming that the board would happily take recommendations.
Okay.
I don't know anything. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Any other comment for folks in the room here? How about anybody online?
Hi, it's Elizabeth. I had a little bit of information, the habitat. So I did speak to the board attorney, and they said that they brought someone down from the state or national to, fill in for now. And that I did speak to the employees too. And so in terms of Rachel, will be some sort of notice about a service down the road this summer as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else online? Okay. Well, thank you all for your comment today. Appreciate it very much. Next item is approval of the agenda. Is there any amendments or edits to the agenda as presented?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Next item is the consent agenda, consisting of the April 2023 minutes, the March 2023 financial statements, the April 2023 financial statements. I want to take these kind of individually. First ask, are there any edits or comments on the minutes? None. How about the March 2023 financial statements? Finally, the April 2023 financial statements. Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I so move to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is the Alliance updates. Catalyst Fund update. Mike and Sarah.
Thank you. We had 5 applications. I think we noted that last meeting. And there are 2 committees that are going through these applications. The first committee is a working committee, and that committee is of more industry resources. So Lisa, Elizabeth, and then a couple of other members, Nicole, Eva. So people that are very familiar with these projects and are able to give some advice. That entity then drafts a memo, creates some recommendations, and then hands it off to a formal committee. That committee is Chris Lopez from CHAFA, Mr. Vaughn, Chairman Vaughn is on that, Mark, Nicole, Eva, Adam Rogers, and Steve Short, and I'm missing one person.
Ken Curtis.
Ken Curtis, and he's the board appointee from the Alliance. So very strong board, great representation. They have the recommendation in and are reviewing that. We have a meeting scheduled for next week for that committee to approve funding, either with the recommendations or make their own decisions. It's autonomous. Of the 5, 1 is in Ignacio, 1 is in Bayfield, 2 are in the city, and 1 is in the county. Is that correct? So really strong representation of where the projects are. Just based on the memo, we expect to fund just shy of $200,000, which is great. That gives us bandwidth to fund again, and we're thinking of pretty quickly making a turnaround in June or July and having round 2 open up. And I don't know if we can get to a round 3 by the end of the year, but we, if there's a foundation that that is currently talking about funding us, if they do so, which I'm optimistic about, they'll give us funding into 2024. And we should have actually several rounds in 2024 based on that funding. So yeah, that's the Catalyst Fund update. By next meeting, we will be able to announce, what the funding awards are. Sarah, do you have anything to add to that, or did I cover it correctly?
No, I think you covered it great. I would say that through this first round, we definitely are making some enhancements to the application process and with the working group and the committee. So feeling really strong about that second round too and the process for it.
Cumulatively, the 5 projects represent at a minimum over 300 units of workforce housing. So I think it could be significantly more, but at a minimum, that was the commitment. So I think we're on the right track.
I have a question.
Yes.
I had office hours this week and somebody came to me very concerned about a trailer park, which we're going to see more of this, right? I'm looking at Lisa with all her work on West Side and Triangle and other areas, but a trailer park that is for sale, that it's been on the market for a long time. And he was just saying, like, what can we do? What can you do? And with that, and would the Catalyst Fund be based on the guidelines, something that I said, I don't see it being for the purchase, but could it be for some due diligence or, something up front? I don't know. I told him, I said, no promises, but I'll ask because we have and it would be 12 units and he thinks there could be 5 additional units probably put on it. It's in the unincorporated county, but right by the city.
I'd have to go back to the application language right now, but it's definitely for the creation of I don't know if preservation
Right.
is in there, but if that board felt strongly about preservation, we could add that in. But right now, I think it's for creation of workforce housing units. And I think the reason being is we have seen preservation initiatives be successful without the Catalyst Fund. And so we don't necessarily feel like we need to step into that role.
Okay, that makes sense. If anybody has ideas or resources I could share, and this person is very involved and lives in the Animas View and knows what he's talking about. So he's really activated around saving that particular type of housing. So thank you.
Do you know if there's anything in the state bills that were approved that would allocate money for preservation?
Lisa, I don't know if, I've been watching some bills around.
There's that fund that just, a couple of organizations, I believe CHAPA, Impact Development Fund, maybe a couple of others, just got some money for preservation of manufactured home
Because
parks. So
I met with Animas View Mobile Home Park and talked with Dan
Yeah,
Hunt,
that's the one, yeah.
about possible preservation through CHAPA, was thinking. 'Cause he
Okay.
was asking.
So maybe contacting Chris Lopez as a start.
Okay, all right.
yeah, Chris Lopez. I have some contacts with Impact Development Fund that I'm happy to connect with.
That sounds good. Well, it was Dan, so,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
He's doing great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add?
I was going to say, we don't preclude preservation in the Catalyst Fund currently, especially if they were proposing this to be, workforce housing, affordable housing. But we can certainly bring this up to the Catalyst Committee next week as they're reviewing all of our current
Yeah,
application
good point.
standards.
Okay, that sounds good.
Anything else on the Catalyst Fund?
Nothing on the Catalyst Fund. Anything else from the Alliance, Sarah?
No, I don't think so.
We met with Restaurant Association this morning. They are giving full support to everything that is happening. And if we need to go back to them for some kind of support, I think we have it.
We met with DAR, same thing.
Yeah.
Durango Association of Realtors.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll continue to meet with groups. We've also met with Local First. And so we will continue to meet with these entities.
We will be speaking at SASCO at the end of the month. A lot of the nonprofits in the area are starting to feel the pinch of workforce housing, and they want to find a solution. They'd like to plug into the work that's being done around it. So we will be speaking at the end of the month to them, letting them know about all the initiatives and keeping them looped in as well.
Good. Any questions? Next item, financials, Sarah.
Okay, let's see. 1 second. This is not the packet. I'm pulling them up. This is really hard without JJ, for the record.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
By the way, he just graduated from Fort Lewis College.
Did
Yay,
Saturday.
JJ.
Yeah.
JJ. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
These are we're looking at 2 sets of financials because we hadn't approved the March financials. So we're looking at the March and April financials. We did correct the classifications of the communities that got switched again somehow. And everybody has made, all of the entities have made their contribution as stated previously.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
That we not put the financials under the consent agenda, put them here, so we can approve them as part of this line item rather than consent agenda. Because we shouldn't be having the financials later after we've already approved them.
So they should be in the,
They should be in the packet, should be right here rather than part of the consent agenda.
okay,
And we can approve it as part of this section.
Okay.
Separately.
that
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay.
Any other thoughts or questions? Yes.
I like the footnoting that you've added to this. It provides added information.
Carolyn, our bookkeeper, is incredible. She's on top of this.
Anything else? Okay, on to the next item, term tracking updates.
I think this is in the packet.
And I meant to clarify at the beginning of the meeting, Councilor Yazzie is here as proxy right now because the city will be determining next Tuesday who's going to be sitting in that seat for the next couple of, or for the
Next
term.
year, yeah.
Next year, okay. Yeah. Great, just want to make that clarification.
And Eva stated that she's going to check on her term as well.
Okay,
Because I'm sure he would like me here. Okay.
so are there any other updates that we need to cover?
Not that I'm aware of, and
Okay.
Well, didn't we decide there's really no year, or it's just basically up to the elected
It
officials
is.
to make that
It's up to the
appointment?
individual
Yeah,
entities, yes.
And then,
Sounds
I
good,
mean,
that's fine.
but for me, I was appointed for I don't remember, a 3-year period.
I believe so.
I think the bylaws do state that.
Yeah,
And then,
so I'm different. I
and
guess.
it states that all of the individual entities are appointed by that individual entity on their terms.
Just so you know, I've got 2 years left as of this month.
And next month's meeting will include the tracker on this
Great.
because he started on it, so.
Perfect. Okay. Next item, decision items, designation of public posting space.
Yes, so in the bylaws, it states that we need to have a public posting space for the next meeting. And so we have been posting it here and on the website. But when we were having this field trip, if you will, today, it kind of brought to light, maybe we could amend that to only having it on the website, because having it printed here as well can sometimes be a challenge. So staff wanted to kind of bring up, the Alliance staff wanted to bring this up as a potential that we might want to change that to only on the website.
You guys would probably know better than I, but from my Metro District side, I remember the state revised a statute a few years ago to allow website only posting. Do you recall that?
I actually don't know the answer to that question because we do both.
Yeah.
We do.
And we
both.
do both.
Yeah.
And our door, it's a door, it's a physical door. Yeah.
It's a good question, though.
And would that space be here or would it be at the Alliance? Or, that's our other question too, because we have gone between those two locations as well.
I would say it'd be at the physical location of the meeting. And we could probably ask Elizabeth to help us with the posting
Okay.
on a physical posting on the door.
So is that preferable for everybody to have a physical posting here and the website?
Necessarily think it's preferable, it's just if that's what is required, then I'm okay with it, but if it's not required to have a physical copy here, then I don't see any harm in having it
I'm
online.
on Metro District boards, and I somehow recall, especially during the pandemic, that
Yeah.
the state statute was amended to allow for just website posting only.
I would suggest we have our attorney weigh in on this, and then based on that direction, Sarah can post agendas.
So in the interim, put it on the website and post it here, and then next month revisit the topic.
Okay.
Also, I would say, I think JJ might have missed this one, or I missed it entirely possible, but he was doing a little meme to repost on Facebook, and I got a lot of engagement on that, so people are paying attention. So whenever we can get a social media post, we can stick it on our own sites or, share. So,
That we can do.
yeah.
Anything else on that topic? Moving on, letter of support form.
Yeah, so in last meeting and having Turtle Creek, is that right? Dove Creek present, it became clear that we needed to have kind of a process for letters of support from the RHA once a project is presenting to the board of directors. We have had some cases where we discussed that entities that the RHA is familiar with, projects that the RHA is familiar with, when they need a letter of support and it's for a state grant, we can move quickly, and we have an online process for that. But for other projects that come before the directors and want a letter of support because they're going in front of county or city to present, we might need a little bit of a different process for that. So we included in your packet a letter of support form that Chair Bond has provided some input on as well. And so this is a PDF fillable form. Let me bring this up. Here we go. This is the request for letter of support, how it looks currently. And as you can see, you can fill out all the form fields, but this would allow a project to come before the board and present to you all, and then to provide a request, exactly what they're looking for, and provide high-level details that we can incorporate into a letter of support if the board approves to provide a letter of support.
So are we talking about like elected officials are reviewing a project before it actually comes before their own boards?
Well, in the case of last time, those elected officials recused themselves from that presentation. So
That was
what
Tree Farm Village, was that what?
Tree Farm Village, thank you. So what would happen in next time, basically, like if Tree Farm, we were doing this all over again. Tree Farm said they were wanting to present to the board. We would have had them fill out this form prior to the meeting. They would have presented to the board. Those members who needed to recuse themselves would have. And then ultimately, after the presentation, the board would have voted to either do a letter of support or not. And then we would have had all the details there so the Alliance staff could then create that letter of support within the next week.
This government stuff is just complicated.
What's that?
This government stuff is just complicated.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe I'm part of the problem here is that, I've got requests from Brad and Charlie last time for the Bayfield project, and I really felt a little bit like they were just kind of expecting us to provide something without providing a presentation without providing much information, like, hey, we're good guys, we're doing this, and no offense to them. I mean, I know they're good guys and they're trying to do this, right? But I felt like we needed more than that. And I felt like we needed, if we could, from a timing standpoint, and generally on a go forward basis, we should be able to get theirs where they can present something to this board well before that they have to go to, a public hearing on the matter. And so I just felt that that was some formality to the process was necessary for us to give our letter of endorsement.
Yeah, I've read this over and it seems pretty basic and straightforward, so I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good idea to get them something to write, so whomever creates the letter has good information.
Well, and I
Not only that,
also
but-
think, oh, go ahead.
If somebody looks at what we're doing, they can see we have documentation of what we're doing. And even if we did a letter of support for somebody, maybe they could still provide us with this document after the fact, even if we know them and we're hurrying to help them, just so that we have it for our records of what we've done letters of support for.
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
And I think, part of the mission of the RHA and the importance of the RHA is providing these pieces of support, those that are pursuing grants and government funding and outside funding. And that's just one more tool in the toolbox for them. But I think we have to have some meat on the bones for us to be able to sign off on.
We can always recuse ourselves. Oh, well, I jumped in front of you.
No, you're okay.
We can recuse ourselves. So like in that instance, if we could, after we came back in and everybody wanted to vote, we could even stay outside, those that need to recuse. Because it's going to just happen. The project's going to be somewhere. It's going to be city, county, Bayfield, Ignacio. So as long as we're clear and have a good record.
And I just think too, some projects may not need this when it's going to their elected body, only because if we have it at our meeting this month, we've got to wait an entire month potentially for them to maybe go to a city council meeting or something else. I can see this being more used probably after they've gone to like an approval process, even planning commission or something, and getting enough turnaround time to include that in a packet, maybe by the time it goes to a regular meeting, or in particular for grant funding or state funding. I can see this definitely coming in handy for that, to give more guidance and structure.
So you're saying late in the process, even, because I understand between, planning commission is advisory, I understand that.
Yeah.
But have it before you get to the county commissioners or city council or town council?
I don't know if the timing can always be
Yeah, I
exactly
understand
aligned.
that.
And I just would hate to guide a developer that it's critical that they need an RHA support letter to go before, a municipality. I think where they're gonna really need it is in funding sources and grants.
I agree. I just know that the request came of us for a public meeting, so they can say, hey, the RHA is behind this. So that's why I bring it up. So in some cases they request, and I figured if they're gonna do that, they're long enough in the queue in the planning process that if they want to schedule a meeting with us and present to this board, they want to fill this out, present to the board. I think that they should do that to get a letter of recommendation for a new project. If it's for some sort of funding that Lisa wants to pursue, like we did last time through the state, that's a different animal, but for something redevelopment, this is what I'm thinking.
Because they may not, they may be so conceptual that they may not have defined yet if it's rental or ownership, or what owner occupancy requirements might be at play, kind of like what we're finding in the Catalyst Fund. So just, I think just keep that in mind.
I think that's true of Brad and Charlie's project right now, isn't it? That they don't.
And in the form, they could explain that they're
That they may or may not.
Yeah, and like that,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Well, I think
So-
right now they don't know what the deed restrictions are actually going to say, because they're working through that.
So I'm just wondering, on here, I'm not really clear, maybe haven't read through it, is asking what local government is going to would be helpful. So at least you see it right out front. And the other thing that I think is really important as far as the ex parte portion of, city council or commissioners here is, has an application been submitted?
Yes.
Because there's a difference. If an application has not been submitted, it's kind of a different animal than after it's been submitted.
From an approval process, yes, I would agree. But from personal experience, an application could change, or things can change from the conceptual side and then change dramatically once it's in the application. Follow me?
But what she's saying, once it's submitted,
No.
then we're out.
You guys are out.
Yeah, we're out, yeah. I think that'd be good right up front. What
Right up
government are
front,
you
yeah.
submitting to? Have you submitted yet?
Yeah.
An estimated date to submit if they have not submitted.
So getting all this down?
I'm trying.
We could talk faster.
Oh, that'd be great.
But I think just letters of support in general, I see that as our role, because the RHA, as we get our name more out there and continue to see results and, it can have some oomph behind it, especially with funders, like Pat said.
So we would say, we would have in there, what government is it going to? Has the application been submitted? Where is the project at? Estimated date to submit? What entity are you submitting to? If not government, like what grant?
Okay,
That's correct.
and I'd say what local government, instead of what government.
Local government, what local government?
So this is a decision item. Do I feel comfortable making a motion with the amendments? Does anyone, you should say?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Actually, for the motion, I did think of one other thing. Is this gonna be, when you said fillable PDF, are you envisioning when our website is through the SIPA process and posted live, would this live on there so you could direct someone?
Yes.
To put it?
And in the meantime, we will send it to them when they reach out.
Got it. Okay, just wanted to clarify that for the motion. Thank you.
Is that a second with those amendments?
I'll second that with those additions.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, Senate Bill 2023-213.
Discussion updates, grant matrix.
What's that?
I have grant matrix is next, no?
No? We have Senate-
Post decision item, I apologize.
RHA official position and letter on the 223-213.
Failed.
Yeah, this is dead, so it doesn't matter. This is the one where the state would have jurisdiction over local governments. with land
Preemption
use.
of zoning, single family, preemption of single family zoning.
Just for the record, I've had a number of discussions with other people when this came up. And my opinion was this wasn't going to make it through in this session, even though there's a supermajority with the Democratic Party in the Senate or in the House. But I think my view was it was going to prompt a discussion. That's really where I saw this going. Obviously, in my view, it was it was a poor effort on the governor's office part to kick this out and roll it out. But reality is we have a problem, and everybody knows we have a problem. And everybody in this room knows we have a problem, trying to figure out how to solve the problem. Again, personal opinion, I'm gonna get off my soapbox pretty quick. Our biggest problem is not in my backyard. That's our biggest problem. We can figure out these other issues. That's our biggest problem. I'll get off my soapbox. Thanks.
No, I think you raise a really good point. And I mean, when you get almost every county in Colorado, no matter how progressive or not progressive or conservative, and probably almost all the municipalities against something,
Yes.
then it did prompt a conversation. And what we had wrote a letter of opposition to the county, but what we said is, the goals were good. Like get density near where services are and get density on transit lines and be more efficient with water and think ahead. It was just the process was so horrible with not really asking the difference between rural and rural resort and frontier and urban communities. And it was just a big stamp. I'm actually surprised it didn't pass, but it got a lot of good conversation going that I hope we can build on.
It's coming back.
Oh, it'll come back.
Have you heard that already?
Yes, the sponsor said they were gonna bring it
Fingers
back.
crossed. Yeah,
I think given,
should try a listening session.
I think given the makeup of this legislature, we're gonna see this for a couple of years. We're gonna see a lot of stuff like this coming for the next couple of years. There was some stuff passed in the legislature and we'll see if it gets signed by the governor, but there was a lot of stuff in there that I just shake my head at, but that's me personally. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, so.
Well, and there were 30 preemptions, 30. It was taking away public process from our community and our constituents and our neighbors in our communities to be able to have a voice. That was a big concern for the city, not having that due diligence and fair process. It also had preemptions around sort of the reporting requirements and other onerous stuff that would put it heavily on the local municipalities. So where we're already having challenges with resources, it would have constrained housing experts significantly. Again, I think the intent was there. We need middle housing. We do. We need triplexes. We need duplexes. We need accessory dwelling units. We need other types of product, but no one wanted to talk about the construction condominium defect law. I just can't imagine in this state that no one understands that we have no entry level product for ownership. It's staggering to me.
I was at a legislative update given by a land use attorney 2 days ago in Denver, and the question was asked, is there any hope of addressing construction defects? And she said, no way, absolutely no way. Not with this makeup of the legislature. So you could say they care in one breath and they don't care in another breath.
And there wasn't any constraints around affordability necessarily.
Right, that was the problem.
With no funding whatsoever, and constraining water resources and other resources. The developer wasn't going to have to pay for certain things. He could just say that it was too expensive. So there were certain flaws, and I think the intent could be there. And I think it showed, obviously with CML and CAST and others, that they really rallied hard. And so I've sent letters of thank you to them because of how hard folks worked on that at the Capitol as well to ensure that that wasn't going to pass the way that it was written without extensive amendments. And the amendments they did 60 of them as I've tracked all of this.
Yeah.
Then they put back the 30 preemptions and it was like, well, wait a second, what happened to all the work that just happened?
The House did put it at the last minute.
Yeah, at the last minute at the 11th hour.
There was also a separate bill, an effort to ramp up construction defects in single-family detached residential units as well. That failed at committee, but that gives you an idea where we're at. So, okay, I think we beat that one to death. The next item is discussion updates. Sarah, grant matrix.
Okay, the grant matrix is in your packet. By the way, can I ask real quick if we should have printed packets or if everybody is comfortable having digital?
Personally, I'm old school. I prefer print myself.
I use print.
Me too.
Okay, so keep print. Okay, all right. So in the current grants, the ones highlighted are the updates. We had a couple of updates for Durango for HB 21-1271. That was to be applied to both of those, right?
So when we submitted the grant application, we were unique in that we actually went in for 2 priority projects that we were ready to deploy. When we were awarded from DOLA, they had us pick 1 priority project. And so we didn't get funding for both. And in that, we had reduced our ask from 1.5 to 1 million. And so that's what we've been awarded. And we did just get our IHOA grant agreement this week. My understanding is the city of Durango was one of the first contracts they've got through the pipeline. And Best Western anticipates pulling building permits later in June. So it aligns with the scope of work to really get that ramped up and construction happening during the construction season. They've got everything lined up. And a big portion of that will be part of their fees. So about 600,000 of the 1 million will be expended when they pull the building permits pretty quickly.
How many new units?
it'll be 120 new. So we'll see.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Part of that is Nicole, so I won't take all the credit. But
Thanks,
we've
Nicole.
been working hard on it. It's been a big learning curve for me. I've got federal money, I have state money, I have PABs, and I have LIHTC all in one project. But I've never done all of that in one project.
This is also the first LIHTC funding of a hotel conversion, in state history.
So it's been learning along the way, and we've had a good representative at HUD. And so we are about to expend the $3 million and deploy that to the project as well. So that's, once I can get that one deployed, and we can thank Senator Hickenlooper and Bennett for that, then I can focus on the $1 million next.
So I need to make a correction to the grant matrix though, right?
Yeah.
And just take out this current ask for 3 Springs. That was not part of this.
You know what we can probably do for the matrix for simplicity's sake? I like tracking that, you know, what we applied for, but we probably didn't get the full ask. Maybe we can just do like the strike through of the text.
Okay.
Because I'd like to kind of keep an eye on what everybody's getting and maybe not getting for the community, so.
Very good. And then an update for RHA. We are working on a couple of internal documents to differentiate these 2 grants. But for the sake of clarity, hopefully I can just say big grant, little grant right now. The big grant is valued around $100,000, but because it's not a monetary grant, because it is access to technical assistance and housing experts from around the state, this is as close to a monetary value as we're going to get. We were told by DOH yesterday that we should be receiving that award letter next week. And we are, the top 3 things that we are positioned for with that is the tax exploration and policy around that, because this grant is specific to policy and leadership, municipality and county. The other is the fund balance best practices, which is another request from directors. And then the other is kind of where the RHA can move into next as well. So again, some more best practices and policy information around that. So when we receive that letter, we'll be hopefully distributing some guidance documents internally as well. The second one is the technical assistance that Eve and I discussed at the last meeting. This is the 2-day educational series that will take place on July 26th and 27th, and I put it on all the directors' calendars. And we are now kind of diving into what those 2 days could look like and what kind of education we can provide for those 2 days. So again, bringing in housing experts from around the state to specifically discuss the topics that we help shape and guide. It is our hope with these 2 technical assistance grants that it will help the RHA to help define what the next 3 to 5 years could look like for this organization within the scope of state support. Any questions?
Questions?
And we're figuring out a location.
And they are figuring out a location and agenda is next. The date was hard enough. And then the second tab, I also pointed this out to everybody in the email, but the second tab is funding opportunities. This is not a full comprehensive list. We're going to continue to add on to this. For instance, I don't think I have strong communities in here yet, and that is going to be coming out over the summer. I think we should all keep an eye on that because it is specific to infrastructure, which we know is a vast need in the county and the cities. So we'll continue to add to this for those of you looking for more funding sources.
We have a small update on ours. I'm talking to Shirley yesterday.
Okay.
Transformational, they plan to at least know what they're gonna support by May 23rd. I should be getting a phone call. It sounds like they have so many that they're not gonna be able to fund everybody 100%. We asked for 2.6 million, but they're gonna try and get us something. We'll see on that one.
That's on Cinnamon Heights.
That's all I have on the grants matrix.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, the next one's the favorite topic of the year. Position 123 updates, Eva and Sarah.
I can dive in. I think I was, well, one, just was really thankful of the gathering yesterday for having our local representatives from a state agency speaks volumes. You know, I think we can do Zoom meetings and calls and emails, but having them here in our area to talk to directly and really just face to face means a lot. You know, I think we can all talk about the challenges and the need and things like that, but to just have conversation and just, everyone was very professional. Obviously, we didn't have anything, you know, to really bring up other than the challenge that we all know about. But I wanted to recognize that first, because they're all busy too. And that was a big undertaking for Shaq to put that together. So I don't know if the RHA can send a thank you letter to Shaq from the RHA, but I would like to recommend or suggest that. If that's
Just to review for everybody, we had this meeting with Department of Housing and CHAFA. They came in, and a number of us in the room asked them lots of different questions about lots of the different state funding sources, about what they know about Prop 123 and others. We talked about for sale housing, and we talked about LIHTC, low income tax credit housing. I kind of went after him to say, how can we get more? And then Jen Lopez was in the audience. She piped up and says, well, we've gotten more than our share relative to our size of our population. She says, I don't care, I want more. You know, we're selfish. You know, how can we get more? How can we position the RHA to get more? And one of the things that came out of there was make sure you don't have competing applications, and that the RHA guides the applicant that is most well positioned to provide housing in the area. So I know we all work on it, and you know, you guys may in your respective planning departments really work hard on a project. But if another one's better positioned and you can only get one, you know, allocation, the RHA is going to have to decide to put its weight behind something that's going to put something on the ground quicker. That's the reality. But
you can allocate your private activity funds to a specific project. So
Yes.
if there was an opportunity at Bayfield or Ignacio or the county, we
do have one.
we can, and so we
Yeah.
can, we can allocate directly to a project instead of those PABs going back to CHAFA. You
Right.
can also carry them forward if you're not sure if there's any projects in the pipeline. You're not required before September 15th to give those back to CHAFA. You can carry them forward for 3 years.
those are different than low income tax credit. Right?
Correct.
Private activity.
So private activity bonds are for low-income housing tax credit projects only. It's the only way you can use private activity bonds.
Got it.
And they're limited to 4% low-income housing tax
Got
credit,
it.
not 9.
Sorry.
Which again, I don't know why 9, because the 4% is the most competitive, and that's what Jen was alluding to.
Right.
And so that was another piece I kind of threw out. I was like, I don't know.
I think there's some confusion around that then. Countywide.
Sorry.
Director, we should let them know because I think they're coming to.
Yeah.
Maybe irrigation ditch to move for their project.
Eva, can you send Sarah and myself some parameters
I'd be
around?
happy to.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what
Because when we
need.
reached out to Wayne, his voicemail's full and he only sent a 1-sentence reply to us.
Yes. We also have an attorney that we work with in Eagle County that helps manage that component. So,
That'd be really helpful.
yeah, happy
Thank you.
to. Yeah.
Did you put yours towards Best Western?
So when Durango originally was eligible, so it's 20,000 people population base, so we haven't been getting them that long. It went to preservation of Tamarind Square off of 3rd Avenue, which is a LIHTC project for 4%.
So is the county?
But we allocated yours
county?
last year, ours to
Yes,
last
so,
year.
and then 2021, we carried them forward. And then in 2022, we delegated 2021 and we allocated 2022. I learned so much.
To Best Western.
To Best Western.
And we allocated ours to
And then,
Best Western.
yeah.
Yeah, I can get details from our staff, so we can't allocate them
If
to
it's, well, first it has to be rental.
not ownership. And Brad Blake's
And it
project,
has to be, yes, so this does.
ownership.
And it has to be 4% low-income housing tax credits are the only thing PABs.
Okay.
So you can carry them forward right now before September 15th.
For how
You don't
many
have to make a
years can you carry them forward?
So why don't we have this conversation a
Yeah.
little bit
So just
offline?
happy to provide the folks
Thank you.
information. Let me just send it to you and Sarah.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
That'd be really helpful.
And then I hijacked your presentation of
Okay.
123.
Prop 123.
Sorry.
So there is a new tool that's been revised on the Division of Housing's website. So I did an exercise with my team last week. Lots of drop-down boxes, lots of, calculations change. And we just did every one. I wanted to see what would happen depending on what I picked. They have family household income, an opportunity to select. Then
I
they
did
have
ours
their
too.
local AMI. So yeah, just wanted to do the exercise. There's no commitment, there's no obligation, you're just testing the tool. And so just would encourage folks to do that so they can kind of sort of see how it works.
It's
And
much more aligned, I will say, based on Bayfield doing it. I was looking at rental housing and how many rentals we had in the community, and I felt like the number was much more realistic than before, so I don't know.
I would agree. It's a little more realistic now with what they've changed, only if I picked local area median income.
That's what I used.
Not the family household. The family household was way off. It said that I had 2,258 units. And so then it was triggering my 3% commitment a year significantly higher. So the local area median income was more accurate.
That's what I used.
And then I was wondering, the RHA sort of talked about, or we had some dialogue at the last RHA meeting when Chuck was here too, about a joint educational opportunity. And so I was wondering if we, depending on where the July 13th location and meeting would be, to open that to local municipalities and the RHA for a dual training about Prop 123 directly from the state. So that staff's not having to present it. We have new counselors that I think would benefit from this opportunity to learn a little bit more as well. And it could provide a little relief for staff to not have to do a study session or a operational update with my council or planning commission right now. And that adheres to some timelines because we have to get the commitment of the baseline submitted before November 1st. So I would have to go to our elected body and planning commission even before that. So I'd have to go for August probably.
Same boat as you.
Yeah. So, so that would be my
July
recommendation.
13th meeting will not work, the CHAPA.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, you are.
But I think it overlaps with the RHA. Is that an RHA board meeting day?
I believe it does.
So I'm suggesting that in exchange of a RHA board meeting potentially, that we use this as a learning opportunity. And we allow the municipalities to attend. So we would need a big enough space for that type of an event.
How about like the rec center?
Rec center, I'm
Yeah.
thinking for sure. Yeah, I was thinking one of the big rooms of the rec center, and I would need to get that reserved like tomorrow, probably for that.
I think it's a great idea. Save us a lot of
It
time.
would save us a huge amount of time and be more efficient
Yeah,
Yeah.
on it. So
I'll reach out to Chris.
Does the
president
board
of
agree
CHAPA.
with that approach?
sound like a good
I do.
as follow-up from them. And that's really the only other thing, I mean, other than the House bill passing that changed some of the modifications to Prop 123 that came out.
Which
Other
were
than-
generally positive.
They were generally positive. Yes.
Depending on your point of view.
Yes. So that's really all the update I had, other than,
I was going to say in yesterday's work session, or gathering with Shirley and Andrew. There were representatives from the Southern Indian tribe there. And so they actually posed some good questions to Shirley and Andrew on how tribal and town collaborations might work, and including county collaboration. So
I'd like to include them for sure, because that was
Yeah.
added in the new House bill.
Right.
was the
So these changes did include tribal representation, but it was gleaned that they would be competing with everybody else. They don't have a separate section for just tribal allocations. And, but the questions were really unique about collaboration between the different entities, which I think is a good opportunity for us. But then how do we have to be part of the program first and foremost by agreeing to it. But then who starts getting credit for affordable housing if it's, a joint project with the town and the tribe? So.
And it's still
Super good question.
we kind of brought that up as well, Mark. And there's still opportunity for engagement, I think, throughout the state on that. And I mean, I would hope that both could get credit. I don't understand why we need to nickel and dime unit inventory
Especially when
on
it's
something like that. I think both should get credit, and I wouldn't even suggest 50-50. I would just suggest that both get the credit.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be my initial take, but I'm sure others have different opinions on that. But we're gonna have challenges getting developers to build. And so it's gonna put more pressure on an already constrained system of construction to build more units. So I would hope others could get the credit dually, instead of not having it divided. So more opportunity. They also said they didn't have answers on the commitment of what the unit type had to be. Because I was concerned about, is it gonna tie into how I created the baseline? Because the baseline says 100% AMI for ownership and 60% for rental. And so I had questions, is that the same type of product we need to be achieving with Prop 123 funds? And no one knew the answer. So.
Mark, do you know if the tribe is inclined to opt in?
They, I think, are looking at it, definitely. So, yeah, it gets cloudy, within the exterior boundaries of the reservation and Ignacio and unincorporated
Tell me about it.
county. But yeah, I think they are inclined to opt in on this.
Okay.
And we definitely want to make sure we invite and not exclude.
Yes, we ought to include Pat Morrissey or one of his people, because Pat's working with Mark down in Ignacio, and then, obviously that'd be.
Yeah, Colton
the flag
Black
of all
was
three.
in attendance as well.
Bless you.
Anything else? No. Sorry. This next one, I just still think is a placeholder is member umbrella policy updates. This is where we've talked about just trying to align certain policies for efficiency for projects that meet criteria. But we're a ways from getting there, I think. So we have a lot of other bigger fish to fry right now. Goals, tracking.
In your packet, we included both the kind of high-level first-year objectives and those that have been ticked off, along with the goal tracker. So you should have both of those. As far as just to kind of hit some of the ones that we have had some movement on, the website, we are next in line for CIRSA to develop the website. So that's great news. We're also at the Alliance we've hired a website developer so that we can have improvements to the Alliance website and utilize them for the RHA website as well. So we anticipate to actually have some progress on this by next month. I think and as far as public outreach support, I did meet with Pat Morrissey with the tribe. And so we had a really great conversation about all the work that we are doing at the RHA and the Catalyst Fund. So he and John Penny were excited to hear about how far we've come as an organization.
And was that exclusive to Three Springs, or did that include discussion about Ignacio projects as well?
We did not touch too much on the Ignacio project, Rock Creek.
Okay.
But it wasn't exclusive to just Three Springs.
Okay. And for those of you who don't know Pat, he's a fourth generation native of Durango, and he's pretty passionate about this stuff. He grew up here, you know, he's worked for the tribe for 15 years. He's you know, he'd like his kids to be able to live here at some point. So, you know, he's a good advocate for us.
Like maybe, and also the tribe has completed their own housing needs assessment or housing study. And I pinged them yesterday to see if it's going to become public. They're trying to make that a public document. Would be helpful, I think, for us to get a better understanding of their need and stuff that Patrick's working on. They did identify some housing builds within Ignacio on tribally owned lands within the town, as well as Keach's Hill complex up there. They're adding more units as well. So not just the work that we're doing on Rock Creek, but they have other projects that are happening within town, which are exciting. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to work together and hopefully help each other out.
We discussed that as well, and he said that he had redacted that document so that it could become publicly available. So we are hopeful that that will become available. We've been talking with Chaffa about a housing needs assessment for La Plata County because we're seeing that as a need for some of the grant applications to the state. And so Pat and I specifically discussed, you know, if they do not release their housing needs assessment, which is very comprehensive for the area, that we could potentially go to SEH and ask for a version that completely removed the tribe from it. And that way we could save money on a housing needs assessment, as Chaffa has offered that they have money for us to do a housing needs assessment. But they would require a match. So it's up to $25,000. So if we had a housing needs assessment, in other words, that was just $8,000, we would just need a match for $4,000 of that. So we're working on that end as well. We should have some answers here in the next month or so on that.
And just so those of you who are not familiar, the tribe is very, very sensitive about membership information, tribal member information. They just are, and that's okay. You know, that's the way they have always been. Even if the tribe wants to do something, you know, that information is very personal and very confidential. So.
And we are prompting the tax task force to bring that together and to start looking at this as to what it could actually entail. And again, trying to tap that DOH technical assistance grant specifically for that. So it's in the start phase. That's it for the goal tracking.
Great.
And Chairman Bond, I have to be at an event at Fort Lewis, so I can email everybody. We have just a couple little updates, but I'll email them out to everybody. So sorry to leave.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Good to see everybody. Great tour. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Keep up your good work. All right, bye.
City of Durango, you want to take care of this?
Yeah, I'll be quick. The tour for the Gauge is the first development project that I've been a part of with the city of Durango, and really excited to see it coming online as quick as it has been. We're looking at opportunities as well to master lease, not only with the rent restricted units that we captured in that project. So looking at ways to get more affordable units in our community creatively. Secondly, the Animal City Park Overlook is coming along over by North Main City Market, and those units should be the first phase ready towards the end of June, early July. There's also have deed restricted and income restricted units in that particular development. Best Western, as I mentioned, will be pulling their building permits before July 1st. That will secure 120 additional units in our community. And Monday, there is a neighborhood meeting public for 1500 Florida Road. This is the property that the city owns, about 7 acres.
that we released an RFQ for. We did a notice of award to the adjacent landowner called Durango Crossings. And this will be 50% of that project would be affordable and workforce housing units. So that's the first process for the comprehensive map to be amended. That's Monday. And then Tuesday, I'll be with City Council on a brand new fee offset policy to standardize for projects that contain workforce and affordable units. So that's pretty exciting as well with City Council. So that's it.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Mark, Tom?
I think everybody knows what's going on in Ignacio. One thing I'll just add is the tribe, Southern Union Tribe, is working on a comprehensive broadband project throughout the reservation, and they're looking at trying to work within the town as much as possible. So that's exciting, and that includes running fiber into this new Rock Creek subdivision. So that's really exciting. If we can pull that off, that'd be great. The tribe did submit a congressionally direct spending request for $7 million for the build on five plexes there. I learned that Senate staff recommended that they pare it down to about $3 million. So the scope has got a little bit smaller, but we're optimistic that it might be a good anchor for our project up there. A lot of work still needs to transpire on that. Rock Creek's going, and CDOT's tearing up town, and we're doing the same, but I think Ignacio will look significantly different this time next year. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Mayfield.
Well, I think probably the biggest thing we've talked about housing is that our Joe Stevenson Park, we're updating our master plan for that park, and we put out a survey. Our Parks and Rec director thought he'd get 30 surveys. We had almost 400, not quite 400 responses to our survey. So it just shows that families value Bayfield and our community and our parks, and so I don't know if there's anything else to add.
We are updating our building codes. So we are looking at adopting the 2018. It just passed that planning commission. It's going to the board of trustees on Tuesday. It's another thing I think that's interesting coming from the state is if you don't adopt it by July 1st, then after July 1st, any code changes you make, you have to adopt the 2021 because they want the 2021 energy code, which is a lot more expensive for development. And so it's another thing where they're saying we're not doing our share to get affordable housing, but they're wanting everybody to be on the 2021 energy codes, which is present to the board. It's quite a bit more expensive, and it's like we're on the 2009 right now energy code. It's like a 20-year payback just for the cost savings to go to that based on what it's going to cost. So again, just something I think the state needs to take some responsibility on, but we're looking at doing the 2018 codes, staying with them for a couple of years until the 2024 codes are out, and then we'll want to move the 2024 codes in 2025. So that's another, I think, big one for Bayfield right now. And then we just have some developments that I think Mustang Crossing, we're getting really close to seeing. It's not affordable workforce housing, but we'll get in close to seeing some groundbreaking probably in the next month or so. They're getting very close to be able to do horizontal.
What is Mustang Crossing? Sorry.
It's 80 units. It's on the east side of southeast corner of town, but they're 10,000 square foot lots. So again, not affordable workforce. And then Hago, we hope to see the Pine River Commons. We'd hope to see them break ground in the fall once the irrigation ditch is able to be turned off and start their horizontal infrastructure then. So trying to get them wrapped up as well. And they've already made it through their approval. So now they just have staff level site plan to finalize, but they've already got their final approvals from board trustees for phase 1.
Okay. So this may be an instance where we provide a letter of recommendation when they're pursuing their grant application with the state.
Yeah, because they're trying to get some grant funding to help, because they do want to deed restrict them,
Mhm.
and it's a private developer, and he wants to deed restrict 100% of the units, and we're like, okay, how can we help support that endeavor?
When's the code deadline?
July 1st.
Okay.
Anything after July 1st, if you change a code, or even if you just adopt like a new plumbing code, you have to adopt the 2021 energy.
Thank you.
So.
I forgot about that. We're in the same process, but we lost a month, so.
Yeah.
Special meeting.
Well, if you want, I'd be happy to share my what we're proposing for amendments.
That'd be great.
I'll
if you
email
could.
you. They're pretty simple.
Thank you.
Now you brought it up, but I'll have to.
You guys, you adopted it last March.
Oh, good. Okay.
You're on the 18th.
You're going.
Things I know. Things I need to worry about and the things I don't.
You're like in
We
that.
were in the process when I was leaving, adopting it.
Just a couple of things from me on the member at large update. One, Mark touched upon Keach's Hills, which is a 30-unit townhome complex that the tribe built years ago, probably 20 years ago. And it's this, they're kind of townhome style, 3-unit plexes, 3 plexes. And their preference to tribal members, but there's a lot of non-tribal members living there, and they're all ineffective, or they're effectively below market. They just are, just because that's the way tribal council is designated but to the extent that they can put more units there, it's really a good thing, and they do have room for that. So there's already some of that product there, and the tribe is, from what my experience was, they're very intent on keeping it very reasonable for the tenants there. Second item is, I belong to the Urban Land Institute, and I'm on Colorado Community Development Council. That's a mouthful, I know. But it's a collection of really, really bright people in the development and construction industry. They're almost everybody's front range. But there are folks that I've known for, some of them for 30, 40 years in the business. And and they have presentations, and one of the presentations was from a group called RCL Co., which is a national group that does all kinds of real estate analysis and economic forecasting. And so we got an economic forecast from one of their key players. And a couple of takeaways that I think is beneficial for everybody here is, one, really doesn't anticipate a hard recession, with the caveat that if you have some regional bank contagion, then all bets are off. Okay, so that can make it difficult. And I've talked to some sizable regional banks, and times have been challenging for them. They're in good shape, but that doesn't mean their investors and their depositors aren't happy. So, it's a little delicate, let's put it that way, in my view. The other thing is that they don't see interest rates coming down anytime soon. It'll be at least a couple of years, if not longer, for the interest rate environment to change. So that's probably the current reality that we have to deal with, and that affects everything that anybody who's connected with housing has to deal with.
Did they say anything about rates going up?
No, not necessarily.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, like if rates continue to rise, because, the organization that makes the rates go up and down doesn't really think about what effect it has on the banking industry. And they can continue to make them rise, which then can make banks go more and more into default.
There's the theory that the base, or the inflation rate right now is now below the federal funds rate for the first time since this run up in inflation occurred. So that will temper their view of continuing to raise rates. So now if it changes, then that can change too. So
Then it doesn't change.
that's all I had.
Been following on your deals there. I've been spending some time in the Front Range up in Lafayette, and it just blows me away, the level of development that's happening up there. It is just exploding, housing and commercial to follow it too. It's just, mind-boggling how much is happening up there. And then driving 285 and all the truck traffic and everything, it's like the economy is solid. There's people working. There's a lot of stuff positive going on in that regard. So I always struggle with the data too, and so on, but I think Colorado's in a really good position. So I just wanted to echo your comments there. And I forgot one thing I wanted to say, and if I may, I want to thank Lisa, who is the chair of the Colorado Mountain Housing Coalition, for putting on a really good summit. Sarah and I were able to attend. And I think you guys did an excellent job, and I'm glad there's an organization like that. They brought in a lot of the funders, and there was tons of good information on all the funding that's coming out for housing and programs and things of that nature. Well done. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, and I appreciate both you and Sarah coming, and you are all invited, and you all should come next year.
And they only pick hot spring resorts for their conferences.
Exactly, so.
Good if we go, so we can come.
Is there anything else? So? You don't have anything? Okay, you were waving your hand, so.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so I'll call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
It was good. You have just a moment?